My mother came out on the porch and told him to put the worms down and take her to the hospital. Maybe that is the reason fishing has always been a huge part of my life. My first memory of fishing is getting up really early, loading everything into the car, driving to my father's friend's house. I fell back asleep but was awoken by the car's tires hitting the dirt road. My father rigged up my pole and left me on the bank while he helped my sister do the same. I really don't know what I was doing, but I remember yelling, "Hey Dad, it's stuck." I was unable to turn the reel to the large trout that had eaten my worm. My dad helped me reel in that first fish, a brown trout, which I promptly named George Fish. My love grew when my father took up fly fishing. He was an attorney and helped a neighbor out of some trouble, and the guy paid him in fishing gear. Not knowing a thing about this hobby, my father and I learned together. I spent evenings by the creek with my dad, but as I grew, my interest in sports and girls grew as well, putting fishing on the back burner. It wasn't until after high school when I moved to Jackson, Wyoming, that I got back into fly fishing. From there I was hooked, so to speak. One of the reasons I became a teacher was so I could fish all summer long. I took my first job in Idaho because the school was close to a famous trout river. My children grew up spending their summer days in a drift boat learning how to fish. However, after my daughter hooked me in the face, she really hasn't shown an interest to fish. One of my most proud days was when my son told me he was only going to fly fish. The boy had done a bit of fly fishing but still used the spin rod. However, he was ready to put that down forever and focus on flies. He caught some nice fish that summer, and many guides took note and kept their clients away from the kid catching big fish. After 7 years of teaching in Idaho, I felt it was time to move my family. I landed a job in Cody, which happened to be a bit better place to catch trout. Buffalo Bill Reservoir is home to trout throughout the fall and winter where they can grow big and fat, but when the spring comes, they get the urge to spawn and make their annual run up the river and its tributaries. The spring days in Wyoming can be cold, but the fishing makes up for it. Big dumb trout stack up like firewood waiting for the right time to mate and pass on their genes. But that magical period only lasts a few weeks before the weather warms too much and the snow from the mountain melts and the rivers flood. The fishing will be done for a few months. Well, the river fishing, that is. Lakes filled with trout and carp satisfy my urge, but I still can't wait to get back to the trout of the North Fork. Eventually the rivers mellow and the fish are hungry and willing. For the next 2 months I spend as much time as I can in the hills, time with the trout. Eventually the water gets too low and warm for the trout and they migrate back to the reservoir, which means I have to get my fix fishing the tailwater in town and back to the lakes. Despite the freezing temperatures outside, the water released from the dam stay at a constant 42 to 48 degrees, plenty warm for trout. If the winds are kind, I might steal away a few hours to clear my head. I've spent days chasing fish from Alaska to North Carolina, Mexico, and Belize. I've caught snook, bonefish, redfish, mahi-mahi, salmon, and tuna with a fly rod. But that one place I hold near and dear to my heart is the North Fork of the Shoshone, and its big, dumb fish. Many years in the water have taught me various lessons about life. I have used the sounds of moving water to clear my head and help me find my center. For some, they become closer to God by going to church. For me, I find him in water. Thanks, Dad. You hooked me for life.